So I'm ready to try the install of the first window. I'm super excited and scared at the same time because I've never done windows before. It's kind of a big thing. I'm going to, I've just laid out the 10 by 10 panel, one of the side 10 by 10 panels. And I've decided to put the window on the front, towards the front of the tent on the one side panel and towards the back of the tent on the other side panel. I guess I have to label them now and decide which one is which, and keep that forever going forward, because if I sew it together wrong with the other pieces, the window might end up in the wrong spot. So I have to be cognizant of that. So I'm going to lay out the plastic and see how much I have and what I can make out of it. I'd like to make 4 windows if possible, but you know, we'll see how much material I have. Alright, so I've got the clear vinyl, plastic, whatever it is. It's 30 gauge, so it's got a cracking temperature, I believe, of -30, so hopefully it won't crack. I have about 36, 37 inches by 54, so that should make a couple of nice size windows. You know, the windows don't have to be huge. I just want to have them to be able to see out. It doesn't even matter if it's just like a sliver. So I'm going to play around a bit with the size on some paper and figure out what sizes I'm going to cut them, and then I will cut them out. Okay, so just laying it out here with the rulers. I think the 2 bigger windows, 18 high by about 26 inches wide, would make 2 very nice sized windows. Actually might be a little bit big, but there will be like bias tape going around, and then they have to get sewn in, so I'll probably lose an inch all the way around. So I think that would make a good size, and then that still leaves all of this so that I can make a window for the door and a window for the back panel. I decided that the 18 inches was a little bit too high, so I did 16 by 26. And again, I'm going to lose an inch on all sides with the bias tape and putting it into the canvas. So I think that's a really nice size for the 2 side windows. Okay, in the video I watched on how to put windows in, it was actually on a boat canvas. I'll put the link in the bottom in the description in case anyone wants to see that, just to understand how to actually do it, because I have no clue. It says that you can use chalk on this or a white crayon, but it didn't write on it, so I just used my Sharpie. This is the outer edge, so it won't get seen anyways. It's going to get covered. So I just used a Sharpie to make the lines. So I'm just going to cut it out very carefully. I'm a terrible cutter, so I'm going to take my time so it's nice and straight. Okay, so there's one window. Like I said, it's a pretty good size, but it will have you know, an inch lost all the way around, but that's a nice size window right there, I think. Okay, and there's window number 2. I still have all this left over, and I believe what I'm going to do is I'd like to do some triangle windows, one on the back and one on the front door, but that's why I needed a lot of extra material, because if I do the triangle, I'm going to lose a bunch of plastic. So basically what the video says to do is to take bias tape, double-sided tape, and bias tape. Now it's supposed to be the 1-inch thickness, so what I'm going to do is actually just pop it open to make it the 1-inch width. Okay, so the video says to cut it out and have an overhang on each side. I will do that. what you're supposed to do. This lays flat for me. Oh, you know what? I'm going to get my iron out and I'm just going to press this open really quickly. That way it will be much easier to work with. Be right back. Alright, so I just ironed it flat. I'm actually not using the exact correct type, but this is what I had, and I didn't want to have to go to the store and buy more stuff. So, that's nice. Once it's ironed, it's nice and flat, so it's much easier to work with. So I'm just making a border all the way around the window with the bias. They say just to go a little bit over. I'm not sure why, but I guess better safe than sorry. So I have done that. Okay. So now I'm going to take my double-sided tape. Now they use bias tape that has sticky stuff on one side. I don't have that, and I don't really like getting sticky stuff in my sewing machine. The way that they've laid this out, you don't actually stitch through the part where the tape is, which is good because it's really bad for the needle and it gums up your whole sewing machine. So, okay, so I've got my 4 pieces of bias tape cut to fit the window, and I'm going to take the double-sided tape. I'm going to put it on the one edge, just one side of the bias tape, and this is why I pressed this to open it up, because it wasn't really wide enough to do this properly the size that it was. So okay, put that on there. Just gonna rub it in nice and good so it's good and stuck to it. And I'm going to peel the backing off. And now this is important. The inside, the sticky part goes on the inside edge of the window. So not on the edge, at the edge outside edge, but the inside edge of the window. Okay? Just lay it down, and then once it's down, give it a nice, good rub, get any air bubbles out. That is how it looks. So again, the sticky part is here, not on the bottom. Bottom is kind of loose there, see? And the sticky part is on the top, the inside. So I'm going to repeat that for all 4 sides, and then I will come back. Okay, so I've got that one down that I showed you with the sticky part on the top and the inside, and I just have the double-sided tape on the other pieces, and then I'm going to apply them, take off the backing, and then apply them to the window. Okay, so I have stuck on the bias tape with the double-sided tape all the way around with the gluey bias tape part on the inside, and as you can see, the outside edges not attached to anything. So the next step is to flip over the window, and then I'm going to put double-sided tape all along this side, exactly where it is on the other side. So on the inside edge of the bias tape, and then that is how I'm going to stick this to the canvas. Okay, so I have put the double-sided tape on the other side of the window on the inside edge of the bias tape, and now I just have to decide exactly where on the canvas it's going to go, and then I can take the backing off and stick it to it. Okay, so the placement of the window isn't super technical. I mean, I can put it basically wherever I want. It's not going to make a difference in any type of way except for my viewing pleasure. So what I did was I measured 5 feet in, so that is about where the poles are going to come down in the middle along the canvas. So obviously I don't want to lay the window on the pole, which means I have this section to work in. This is the right panel of the tent. So this is the front, so the stove jack is going to go somewhere around here, the vent up top, and then this is where the window is going to be on the back side. So I measured down 3 feet and I put a mark in the center, 2.5 feet in, but I think I'm going to move it over a little bit. Again, it doesn't have to be centered or anything like that, and I would like it to be a little bit closer to the middle of the tent. So I'm just going to kind of move it over a little bit, and then I will do my measurements again just to make sure that this is straight. It does look like it is, but the way that the canvas is folded in the package, there's creases in it. So that's kind of what's giving it the illusion of possibly being straight, but those folds aren't really even. So I'm just going to measure 3 feet down from wherever I put it. I think I'm just going to move it over maybe to about here, and then measure 3 feet down to where to put it. I'm going to take off the bias tape, the double-sided tape on the other side, and then stick the window right to the canvas. Okay, so I've just moved it over a little bit more, closer to where the center of the tent is, but again, not on where the pole is going to be. And even if the pole is a little bit off center, it still gives it some room. And I've measured it 3 feet down and marked it, so I'm going to take off the tape and stick it there. I have removed the backing of the double-sided tape, and the window is now on the canvas, attached to it, stuck to it. And I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew along the outside edge all the way around the window on this side. I've got some green thread on here. I just put it on the top so that the beige thread is actually on the inside of the tent, and I'm just going to stitch around the edge. Hopefully the needle doesn't hate this plastic and it goes well. It's not stuck. I'm going slow so that I can get it right where I want it. So now I have to pivot, turn. It's sewing very, very nicely. I'm very happy with it. So that worked really well. I got a nice clean stitch all the way around the outside, holding the plastic in. And now I'm going to flip it over and cut it, but the first thing I'm going to do actually is take these off. You're not really supposed to do that until you're done, but I'm going to cut them now just because they keep getting in my way, and when I flip it over and sew it, I don't just want them to get like, you know, caught like this or something, and then, you know, when I flip it over, the material's stuck in there. It also has the sticky stuff on it, so I just want to kind of get it out of the way. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to flip it over. So I've got my canvas flipped over. This is actually the inside of the tent. You can just see lightly around here where the stitches are that I put in, because I did have the beige thread in the bobbin. So the bottom was beige and the top was green. But I can see where the stitches are here. Basically what I want to do, they actually used the bias, which I can use also because I cut it right along the edge, so I could just use this. And you just want to get a general, doesn't have to be perfect, outline of this width. And this is the same way that the stove jack goes in, basically. You sew it on the one side and then you cut out the other after it's already attached. So kind of makes you feel better about putting a hole in your tent when something's already covering it. Okay. scissors. Now they do recommend cutting a hole in the fabric before you put the window on. I didn't actually do that, but it's not really super difficult. You just have to kind of pinch it a little bit and get in there. Okay, so I'm going to cut along this line. And it doesn't have to be perfect because this is actually going to get tucked underneath and inside. Okay, and then you can see the window coming through here. Okay. I'm going to come get the camera and show you from this angle. It's probably closer, better if it's closer. Okay, so I've cut all along there. You can see the window through there. And I've just left like a generous amount there. Now basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to miter cut the corners. So just put a diagonal cut like that and do that to all four. Okay. Okay, so I've done a miter cut in the corner, diagonal of all four. And now basically what you're going to do is just lift this up a little bit. The glue is still under there, right, on the inside edge. And you're going to lift it and tuck it under. So it makes a really nice seam all the way around the window. And then that glue will actually catch this material and stick it to it. So as you can see, I'm going to need my other hand to work this, but that's basically what you're going to do. You're just going to lift it up, and right under here is the sticky tape, the double-sided tape that I put on. So this little edge just will hold that until I sew it. And I'll make it nice and clean and make it look really pretty. So there you go. There's the one edge. Oh, it came out a little bit. Like I said, you kind of need two hands to do this, so I'm going to go do that. That'll give you an idea of how it works. You just go around and do that all the way around the edges. Okay, so I've just tucked all that under and pushed it down so it's nice and straight and flat. And now I'm going to put this on the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a very light seam all the way around the inside edge, just like I did on the outside edge earlier. Alright, after some time, I have finally finished the first window. My sewing machine hates glue, and I knew this, and I flipped over the canvas to go to sew that inner edge and started, and my sewing machine was pissed. It did not like it. The needle got full of glue and it stopped working. So what I did was I took my glue gun and I pushed it underneath this edge, and I just pushed it down and sealed it that way. This is the inside of the tent, and that's just the way that's going to stay. And I'm going to do the other window just the same way because it worked perfectly otherwise. And I have changed the needle now, so the gluey needle is all gone. And I'm going to go on to the other panel and do the other window. Okay, I have done the same thing with this window that I did with the other one. Just put the double-sided tape on the back of the bias tape, put it on the inside edge of the window, and put it all the way around the window. And now I'm going to flip it over and put the double-sided tape on the other side, and then I'm going to go stick it over onto my canvas. Alright, window number 2 is on, and this is the left side. If you're looking at the front of the tent, this is the left side, and this is going to be at the front of the tent, like opposite of where the stove jack is, but a bit higher. So if you're sitting in front of the fire, you have the window behind you, but it's going to be up a little bit higher so that You know, it's when you stand up that you can look out, not from sitting down. So the window is done, and I thought, you know what, I'm probably going to want to put some kind of a covering over this, especially if I'm car camping with it, and you know, I'm in there changing or whatever, or who knows what. So I just put a strip of the furry Velcro, and quite crookedly, oh, it's not that bad, I guess. It's just because it's on a lump. I just put a strip of the furry Velcro side on here, and then what I'll do later on, after I get this thing sewn together, or whenever I feel like it, I will take the rough side of Velcro and attach it to a nice square piece of material. Maybe I'll use the plastic coated canvas, I don't know, and just to make the window covering for it. All right, it is finally time to sew the pieces together. I really would like to do the vent and the stove jack, but as I said earlier, I can't really do the stove jack because I don't know the height of the stove and how the tent's all gonna lay out, so I really do have to wait. But the stove jack is closer to the front door, so it will be a little bit easier to get in there. You know, you have to push all of the material through, but I did it for the other tent. I'm sure I can do it for this tent. So I'm going to do a French seam to sew together the two 10 by 10 panels at the ridge point, which is at the very top. So I've pinned together the wrong sides. So basically I have the outsides facing out right now on both, and the insides are facing each other. And they're pinned together. Now I'm going to do one seam all the way across the top, and then I'm going to flip it over and do the seam with the right sides together. And then when you flip it, this seam will be inside itself, inside the tent. It's kind of hard to explain, and it's a lot easier to watch a video to figure out how to do it. I actually had to make a little paper model to make sure I was doing the right thing. And then when that didn't work, I had to make a little canvas model. So basically, here's the outside now. That's how it's going to be. And the seam is inside, but it's also enclosed, so all the frayed edges and stuff don't stick out, which I really had a lot of problems with on my other two tents because, you know, the canvas frays quite a bit, as you can see. So I'm going to give this a go. My sewing machine seems to be working nicely, so I'm going to run this through and then flip it over and run it again, and hopefully that'll be that, and then I can start adding the triangle pieces. Oh, my lovely sewing machine is starting to act up. Anyways, I sewed the ridge line with the wrong sides together, and now I've folded it over, and I'm going to sew it with the right sides together. And once I flip that over, it will be done. Well, these two pieces will be together anyways, so progress. I was getting ready to sew on the back panel, the triangle panel, and I really do want a window on that nice big panel, so I cut out a nice triangle one. It's got a 90-degree angle at the top, so it'll fit in nicely with the shape of the back wall, which is a triangle 90 degrees. And I've cut and ironed flat the bias tape, so I'm going to put the double-sided tape on it just like the other windows, and flip it over and stick it on the triangle. Okay, I got the bias tape on there with the double-sided tape, all nice and secure. Looks pretty cool. I really like it. I'm going to flip it over and put the double-sided tape on the other side, and then I am going to stick it to this triangle panel here. I just got it laying on top of the other two, but the triangle panel here, and I'm going to put some around there. Okay, I've positioned the back triangle window. I've got it down about 1.5 feet from the peak. The peak is supposed to be at 7.5 feet. We'll see exactly if that is or not, but that will make the window viewing, I guess, between 4.5 feet and 6 feet. So that's perfect. I'm 5'5", so I should be able to stand up and look out of it very easily. It's 7 o'clock on day 2 of the Hot 10 build, and I missed lunch today. I'm getting really hungry. I've got a steak on the barbecue, which is just about done, and I'm ready to call it a day. I got a lot done today, even though it didn't feel like it. I got 3 windows put in, which totally baffled me before I started doing it, so now I know how to do it, and I'm really good at it. I have sewed the French seam on the ridge line, and now that I have the window and the back triangle panel, I am able to attach it to the 2 10x10 side pieces. So I just went and took my pins, and I have pinned the wrong sides together, basically the insides together, and they actually came out really good. They matched up really nicely, and I'm going to sew that tomorrow and then flip it inside out and do the French seam on that one, and then I will work on the front door. So stay tuned. Well, it's Monday morning, and I'm just getting ready for work. The stove jack sealant that I put on yesterday was nice and dry. I just left it for the day yesterday because I don't need it yet. And this morning I just did the circle on the other side. So now that can dry all day while I'm at work, and that'll be ready whenever I am ready to install it. Well, I managed to string up the tent, literally on a string. I put some screws in my, up in my molding up there so I could hang it. Now, this tent is currently like, I don't know, 5 feet high. It has to go up another 2.5 feet, which is why it's all saggy at the bottom, but you can see the window. This is in the back. It's so nice. I love it. And then over here on the side, that's nice. And now you gotta imagine these windows are 3 feet down, so they should be at about 5 feet. All of that is rolled up down underneath there. And there's the other window. I love the windows, they're so cool. I wanted to string it up just to see, and now I gotta take it back down and keep working. Well, after setting up the tent, fake setting it up, I guess, I realized something about the windows and the coverings. I put a strip of Velcro along the top of the window on the inside of the tent so I could attach some type of just a piece of fabric to cover the window. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just in case, you know, I want to block the light out or I don't want people to see in for some reason. I realized that when I hang something like that, because it's on a big angle, the tent, the window covering is probably going to like not stay to the window. It's probably going to be like out, hanging. So I'm just putting 3 strips, I cut 3 strips of Velcro, all the same size, and I'm putting one on the bottom corner, one in the middle, and one on the far corner. And then that way I will put that correlating on the window covering, and that will keep it from flying off into the middle of the tent or out into the air, I guess. So just a quick update. I sewed the French seam on the back panel, so the back triangle is now in. The peak is a little funky. There's a lot of material involved here, and it got all kind of bungled up, but I'll just put like a piece of material or something over that after I'm done. There's no opening. It's all sewn shut, but it's just kind of not that pretty. So I only have a certain amount of things that I can do because I need the frame to measure the height of the tent where the stove jack is going to go. I don't want to put the front doors on just because it'll be easier to get into the tent to add the stove jack with less material there. So my next step is going to be to add the plastic coated canvas to the bottoms. Even though I only have the 3 sides up, I'm trying to be mostly confident that the other end will measure out and match up to these 3. So I overcut the back triangle by a little bit just to be safe. And I found out just now that my measurements match up absolutely perfectly. Well, because I have this extremely long piece, it's 14 feet, and it's really hard to measure. I mean, it's not like I can measure the distance from like the sides or whatever to make sure it's all even. So what I did was I folded over the canvas on this side where the 10-foot ends, like the 10-foot wall ends. And then I did the same thing over here, and then I folded it so that it was a straight line going across, and then I just ran the iron over it to make a nice seam. And now when I open it up, I know where to cut it. Alright, I have got the plastic coated canvas pinned to the regular canvas, and I have decided to do a French seam on this because it looks so nice on the rest of the tent. Now, just for the record, the reason that I put the plastic coated canvas on the bottom is somewhat for flair and style, but it also has a very big purpose. When I first made my very first hot tent, the teepee, I didn't have anything on the bottom, and the canvas would sit in the snow, and the snow would melt because of the warmth from the fire, etc., or just the warm temperatures or whatever, and then I would get these huge ice chunks stuck to the bottom of the tent, and it made it next to impossible to fold it up and get it on the sled. So the plastic coated canvas is really nice because the plastic side sits on the outside. You can shovel snow on top of it, and it doesn't stick to the snow. Like, it's very rare that you get any ice chunks or anything embedded in it, and it makes it a lot easier to pack up and get on your sled and get it back out. So you could use like silk cloth or nylon, or I know people have used a bunch of different types of materials. I just like the plastic coated canvas because it's not super crazy expensive. It was something that I found, and it comes in Camper Christina green. Alright, well, yesterday I added the green plastic coated canvas to the back side, the back triangle of the tent. I had a lot of problems with my sewing machine, and it actually totally seized up. I did have a repair kit that I bought last year, and I never used it, so I opened it up, and I opened up the machine, and I oiled and cleaned all the parts and all the pieces, and it seems to be working okay now. I have just pinned the French seam to sew that, and I'm going to give the sewing machine a whirl. Hopefully it works the way it's supposed to, and I can move on to adding the plastic coated canvas on the 10x10 side panels next. my stove jack here that I did, I don't know, last week or the week before. Put the gasket sealant on it already, so I am going to cut this hole out. I took some paper that I had from work, just a nice big piece, and it is the same size as the stove jack. So I'm going to use that as the pattern to pin up in the tent, so I can write on it and stuff like that. And then I will transfer it to this. Alright, so I've cut the hole out, and I just traced a circle on the pattern, and now I know where the hole is there. And then when I set up the tent shortly, I can pin this up to where it's going to match the pipe of the stove, and then I can just attach this to the tent and bring it inside and then transfer to this. Now I could pin this to it, but this material is just so picky to work with that I do not want to jeopardize it in any way, poke holes in it where I don't have to, because it's just super sensitive and frayy, and I don't want to have any problems. Woohoo! Camper just arrived, and JT's Outdoor Fabrics have come through for me once again. Got this stuff here in one day. I now have the connectors that I need to set up the frame of the tent, and one of these is actually going to be cut and welded to make a custom piece that will support the middle two legs, and I'm going to get that done today right after work. So I will finally be able to set up the tent, and I can measure for the stove jack and then complete the project. I am super excited. I am aiming to finish this by the end of the week so that I can take it out for a test run this weekend. So wish me luck.